2, 1, you're on.
Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2017 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway, 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. Now, my first guest said he'd be here, but we'll start without him. The heck with him. You will remember, I hope, that last week I said that Father Phil was feeling well and was doing well and was planning on going to Pocono. I got a call about 9 o'clock Wednesday morning. He had passed away Wednesday morning. His wake was yesterday. When his brother called, he said they're going to have a private little family funeral, and that would be it. I said, I think you're going to find it begins for a surprise, and they were. The first email they got was from Singapore. 2 people bought tickets, and they flew in from Singapore. He had visitors from everywhere. The wake, a short wake, and a funeral was today, and they said at the church there was well over 500 people. Father Phil was one of the great guys. I got the privilege of knowing him for more than 20 years, and I talked to him at least once a week. And if he had to suffer, I'd talk to him twice a week. A great guy, certainly going to miss him. How many watched the race from Road America? How many liked the race? How many liked the winner? Well, that's funny. Last week when I said who liked the winner, nobody clapped. That says something. I want to welcome a gentleman who just popped in. He just walked in the door a minute ago. He's been involved in racing all his life. His dad was involved with building engines and building cars for a number of years. And in fact, this gentleman owned a car when the Indy Racing League started, but he stopped by and he's got a kid driving for him, and he'll be here for the big event at the Speedway. Please, I want to welcome Mr. Todd Brayton. The next up for the Verizon IndyCar Series, of course, will be the Iowa Corn 300. It'll be Sunday night. It'll be televised by live on NBCSN. But I highly recommend, if you have the opportunity, log on to racecontrol.indycar.com, or you can go to Facebook, and you can watch the practice and qualifying. It's really good to watch and good coverage. I spent the weekend most of the time watching it. In fact, I even went on Facebook. I didn't realize it was there. I went, and by golly, there it is. So I got to figure out how I do that. And I want to mention that next week, on Tuesday of all days, is the 4th of July. We will not be here. We will be back the following on July the 11th. I don't have any guests lined up yet, but if you go to autosportradio.com and click on the guest tab, you will find out who they might be. Might recommend to you, if you have computer trouble, which I seem to have on a regular basis, you need to go to Computer Overdrive at Lyndhurst and Crawfordsville Road. It's on the northeast corner. If you got a problem, Jack can take care of it. Give him a call. Tell him what your problem is. He can help you. His number is 317-328-0766. My first guest I'm very pleased to have. He somehow gets himself into jobs that keep him busy. But he's free tonight, or at least he is for now. He is the CEO of Hulman and Company and the Hulman Racing, which involves the Speedway, the IndyCar, the whole 9 yards. He was the chairman of the committee for the Super Bowl, which was a huge success. He graduated from Wabash College and is a member of the Wabash Athletic Hall of Fame. He took the tennis organization that was kind of doing okay and made it into a multi-million-dollar operation, and I have no doubt that the Indy Racing League will be the same. I want to welcome the CEO of Hulman and Company, Mr. Mark Miles. Is racing keeping you busier than tennis did or the Super Bowl did?
I don't know. I've always found a way, as you pointed out, to stay busy. I want to apologize for the squad cars with the lights running out in front. I left the office a little late, and the Speedway police, I think, followed me all the way here trying to figure out who was trying to escape from what. But sorry if I cut it a little close getting here.
That's all right. You're here. My hat is off to you. When you came in, as I'm sure you heard, and a lot of people said, well, all right, he's been to the 500. He comes in and he watches and sees. But I have never been a believer that you have to know everything about a job you take over. You have to be able to find the people to do the job, and I think you have done that. You've got some really good people in place, and I think the series is heading in the right direction, which is up.
Well, I hope so. I think there's a lot of evidence of that, and I think of the series, but I also think of the 500, and I think of them as really part and parcel of the same thing. And we had another really good May. I do feel like there's a lot of momentum, and if you live anywhere near here, you feel that. And it really is very gratifying for all of us involved to feel like the trajectory is great and the growth is there. And the series is tracking with it by almost any measure, whether it's the crowds at our events, television, although this year we're a little challenged to keep the growth going. But generally speaking, television's been up. Social metrics are crazy good. The racing has been outstanding, whether you liked every winner or not. We love the fact that, unlike some other series that are prominent around the world, almost anybody can win on any given day. And so we got all these great storylines, whether it's about American drivers versus international drivers, big teams versus little teams. You got to tune in and you got to watch to know what's going to happen, and it's pretty thrilling every week.
I have to say, I think that the gentleman that you appointed president of IndyCar has done a phenomenal job. The last time he was here, which was last week, but the time before that, I told him of my concerns, and I had heard from others who agreed with me, and every one that he addressed, he's done exactly what he said he was going to do. Usually nobody says anything. Yeah, we're going to look at it. He said, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to make it easier for an engine manufacturer to come in. Here's the change that we're going to make. Here's the events we're going to look to get. And by golly, he's done it. And yeah, I think you guys are heading in the right way.
No, Jay's done a fabulous job, Jay Fry. He's got a great team. There's so many good things to point to. One of them, because we're really happy that nobody talks about it, is race control. Officiating for any sport can really make a difference, often distracting. But I think the steward system has been really well implemented. We've got great guys up there. The guidelines for penalties are clear. There's a level of consistency because of the system and the work they put into trying to be consistent from race to race. Great result. With respect to the cars, we're really excited about what we're going to see come on the track in July to test and get ready for next year. Really cool looking, kind of half retro, half futuristic looking car, which we think will perform really well as well. And we're operating pretty efficiently, and he's grown the sport. I think we have the confidence of the paddock in a way that we might not have been able to claim not so long ago. So huge credit to Jay and his whole team.
Yeah, the thing that interests me is he does, before, it's not only him, but the team, they go and inquire. I mean, this is what we'd like to do. What do you think? And they take the feedback and they analyze it and make the decisions that's good for everybody. The teams can afford. I mean, it's wonderful to build a car that costs $5 million, but nobody can buy it. So what?
Yeah. He's a great communicator, and he doesn't do it by a lot of long memos. He does it by talking to people and understanding where the pulse of the paddock is, what teams are worried about, and we try our best to address them. It doesn't mean you can do what everybody wants all the time, but our feeling is, and I felt this my first day around IndyCar, is that notwithstanding the fact that a lot of people seem to think that all the owners are tough and it's kind of like herding sheep. You hear that a lot. But I don't think so. I thought from day one they want it to work. And they know they're not going to win them all themselves, and they know they aren't going to get the answer they want to every question. But as long as it's fair and it's consistent and they're communicated with so they understand what the thinking was, they tend to get together and behind us, and that's happening.
Speaking of race control, I was paying close attention this week, and there was a couple of calls that weren't made. One of them I thought, to me, looked like it, but that's just me. But then the commentator said, I like what they're doing. They're letting them race the race. And, you can win or lose a race by somebody saying, well, you pulled out and you shouldn't have, so we're going to penalize you. As long as nobody got hurt and it didn't really damage what was going on because the car eventually did get by, let them race.
Yeah, I think that's the strong starting point for the philosophy in race controls. Let them race, but we got to keep it safe. And again, it's got to be consistent. If you call blocking 1 week one way, you better call it irrespective of what the number of the car is and who's driving it and who owns the team. You got to call it pretty much the same way from week to week. And I think I've said this on the show before. On the Tuesday, unless it's Wednesday, but almost always on Tuesday following every race, the three stewards and Brian, the race director, and Jay review the entire race and every call and every non-call. And they've been doing this now, the same 5 people, really, for a year and a half. And so they get better at consistency, and that's so important. If somebody can point to last week's race or the prior race and say, well, you didn't do that here, but you did it here, then there's theories about why it was different. So consistency is the key, and I think just through hard work and attention to detail and continuity, because it's the same 3 stewards with the same 2 managers, they're really getting good at it.
Speaking of consistency, one of the things that I find and has been a bugaboo for a few years is consistency with dates, but that's being changed. You're keeping pretty much, when possible, it may shift a day because of some reason, but for the most part, somebody that was at Mid-Ohio or at Road America this year can go figure it's going to be about the same time next year and can book accordingly. And I think that, to me, that's crucial, to have your dates consistent year after year.
Yeah, it's first of all, it's important for the promoters, for the race promoters, and for their fans, because they know how to make their calendars, and people don't wait till a few months before in a lot of cases to make their travel plans or book hotels or whatever it is they got to do. So yeah, 16, 17, and 18 are going to look very much similar. We added Gateway for this year. Otherwise, it's very much the same, except for Phoenix moving a little later because they had the Super Bowl. And I think they may move back, we'll see, but they may move back to the earlier date, the date of a year ago. But otherwise, it's very much the same. And whether or not we add maybe one event for next year is kind of the only lingering question to release the 18 calendar.
I have read where you have been talking about going to international venues, China for one, which failed some years back, and Mexico. Why do you want to go outside the country? Why not build the series here? And then, but when you brought Fernando in, there are people that never heard of IndyCar that watched in Europe just because of him.
Yeah. We've tried now for a few years. It's not rumor. We've been as clear as we know how to speak about the strategy for that. And so we want to start our calendar earlier and end it in mid-September. We think right after the Super Bowl there should be an opportunity. If you look at the other sports, there's a window where we can capture the attention of other of sports fans and maybe even get out in front of some series in terms of when they start. And that February window is really attractive. But if you think about it, where are you going to race in the States? I mean, it's cold, a lot of the places where we might want to race. So you could name 1 or 2 places that come to mind, which we've looked at. So we believe that international, by which we mean not North American, flyaway races, as they've been called, might offer an opportunity to extend this, to start the season earlier. And frankly, be good for the teams and good for the economics of IndyCar, which will be good for everybody. So we're only looking at, because we haven't found quality opportunities in February in the States, we're looking outside North America. There may be an opportunity for a Mexican event, which I think you can think of like Toronto. Yep, they don't speak English. They speak Spanish, but it would still be driving. It's not packing all the stuff up into planes and flying away. And really, in terms of the economics and the time zones, which are really important, it will feel very much like Toronto does. But if we go to Mexico, it'll be Spanish. So we can fit that in to maybe 1 or 2 different places if we have the right opportunity there. And I hope not long after you have your next show, we'll be able to speak to that more specifically and release a 2018 schedule. And I think it'll make a lot of sense to people.
Are you looking at Joliet, Kansas, some of those tracks? I know Jay has mentioned and said very strongly, I'm an oval guy. And I said, yeah, that's good because IndyCar was built on oval racing. Is there any hope that they'll ever join back up again?
I don't think there's been any real serious dialogue with Kansas at this point. We did just add the Oval in St. Louis, Midwest Oval. Hopefully that's a great event this year, and we'll get better every single year. So it's not like we're oblivious to that, but to me, we got a reasonable balance of ovals, both super speedways and short ovals, road courses and streets. We want to keep that balance, and then we want to have great events. So we're looking for where we can be in markets. We've got a lot of events in the Midwest. That's good because that's the heart of our fan base, but if we could also attract a few more eyeballs from another part of the country, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Well, as I mentioned to Jay, when we first started, when the series went to Richmond, Mark Janes and I was his second eye, sat and right before turn 3, and you could see the crowd. But each year it got closer to us, and the last year we were there, he and I said, we're going to have to find someplace else to sit pretty quick because the crowd was growing. And then, poof, it went away. Any chance Richmond, because that was a good race and a good facility, and it drew well. It was drawing well. Because the fans that we talked to said, geez Louise, these cars are so much faster than NASCAR. Well, the pace car's faster than NASCAR.
Don said that.
I said it, yeah.
Brian, Mike, that was Don.
Yes, it was.
Honestly, again, right now we're not really having that discussion with Richmond. If you look at our schedule in the summer, there's an opportunity in the early August, which we're focused on. But other than that, it's pretty packed. And on the one hand, you want the continuity and consistency of the schedule, which we're trying to continue to implement. So is Richmond going to go in February? I don't think so.
Probably not.
And if we go longer, we might be able to get to an oval that you like, that our fans like. But we know for sure fewer people are going to watch on television. So we got to find this balance between the total number of fans, many of which, frankly, the larger bit of which tune in via some kind of media, versus the guys in the stands. We try to find that balance. But it's tough for me to want to add link to the season if I know that a third less people are going to watch if we go longer. Part of one of the very long, loud sentiment I heard from the paddock, and I still hear, is we've got to have our television audience increase. You can't increase it while you're decreasing it. I mean, there's a significant, irrefutable trade-off between what happens in motorsports audiences, not just ours, post-Labor Day, when football happens, both college and NFL football, and the kind of eyeballs you can get on TV.
Strangely enough, when they were running 2 races at Texas, one of them was scheduled in late September, I think, and Jerry Jones had a exhibition game. Eddie Gossage drew over 90,000 people that night, and he went, hee. Now, I don't know how many Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, but Eddie was quite happy about that because he said, I show that so-and-so that we can do it. And, of course, he knows how to do it.
Again, to me, it's finding the right balance between the vitality of the event at the track and the overall audience we can generate through all the media and all the ways we can reach out to people. And I don't remember 90,000 in late September in Texas, but I'm not arguing with you. I just know.
I think that's when it was. I can't remember the date, but there was an exhibition game.
Well, preseason usually stops Labor Day weekend, but it doesn't matter. The point's the same. Whether you can look at NASCAR's television, whatever they got on average for their season before they get to their playoffs, basically before football starts, it's going to be down by almost a third after that for the rest of their season. Tough.
Well, and I won't be watching them, so it doesn't matter to me. I'll watch you, but I won't be watching them. Something I want to bring up. The first time I invited you here and you came, one of my questions was, that's a pretty good-sized piece of property at 16th and Georgetown. Do you have any ideas to do something else with the property besides the couple races? And you said, no, it's a race facility. Well, obviously that's changed.
I said no.
Yes, you said no. We're not going to. That's not in our plan. But obviously things have changed, and you've done it very, very well, and you've got the right people in place to bring in what people want to see. So I got to say, you're doing the right thing. The property is there. Why not use it? I mean, you got plenty of room for concerts. You got plenty of room for all kinds of things. You're bringing in SVRA, which is doing well, I think. You've got the runoffs coming off in September, October, which Todd is here talking about. You're using the facility, and I think it's working well.
Yeah, a lot of it is appealing to our hardcore fan, the classic car racing, vintage car racing, SCCA. But some of it is another kind of racing, like Red Bull Air Racing, which was great.
I forgot to mention that.
And then, I liked the holiday lights. That's really tough on our staff. The people who would otherwise be indoors are out there, and it's cold, and it's between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve. But it's a great way to bring, I think it was 30 to 40,000 people. It was north of 12,000 cars out there with their families to enjoy the place. And we might have made a little bit of money, but really it's goodwill building and using that place and having everybody feel more connected to it. So, yeah, there's a lot of fixed costs there, and the more we can kind of amortize it by other events that people like and bring people out there more often until we all drop because we can't find any more sleep, I think we want to do more of it.
I'm old enough to have been to the original snake pit and used to walk around a little bit. Then I had a photographer's pad, so I went out in turn one and shot back through the fence at what was going on, and I got accused one time. I thought you were there for a race. Well, there was a break, so I was taking other pictures. I don't remember ever in the years that I was there that they drew 35, 40,000 people like the snake pit does now. Wow. That's huge.
Yeah, and frankly, there are people who wouldn't otherwise come to the track.
Right.
If my own young hoodlums are reasonable a sample of what's going on there, they went to the snake pit the first 2 years. And now they don't go to the snake pit, they sit in the seats and watch the race. So to get college kids, young people out there, have them be part of the scene in whatever way they want to start, and then eventually figure out there's a race going on is the ticket. And in the meantime, it's bringing actually about 30,000 people who pay to get into the track and then pay again to listen to this genre music that I can't even name. But it's cool, right? I mean, it's getting young people to know where the speedway is and be out there and know about race day and have a great time. And I think we're going to turn a lot of them into race fans.
Yeah, I think, excuse me, if you listen to Coke and Pepsi, Coke has said, you get them when they're young, they're yours. And the same with McDonald's. Burger King will never catch us because we were here. And once you get hooked on it, I'm one. I came here in '63 and I'm still here. I mean, people would like to say, why don't you leave now? But I'm still here because I got hooked.
While you're coughing, I'll tell you a snake pit story.
Okay.
So a year ago, we were going back to Phoenix, and we had a news conference to show the new A.J. Foyt trophy for that event. And so I'm standing there before we got to do our thing with Graham Rahal and A.J. and an old buddy of his that had been a big part of his team for a long time named Jimmy. And I'm saying something to Graham about the snake pit, today's snake pit. Jimmy kind of tunes it in and pipes up. He says, yeah, I remember the snake pit. In fact, one year I was spotting for AJ. This was 1965. He says, he's leading the race. Of course, then he was spotting from the middle of the snake pit in the first turn. He says, so I'm on the radio with AJ. AJ's leading the race, and he comes over the race and says, Jimmy, are you seeing this? Look right in front of you. 10 yards in front of you. That woman's topless. This is AJ leading the race, picking this young lady out of the crowd. He goes around a couple more laps and says, Jimmy, I'm telling you, look, now she's naked. So the snake pit has meant different things to different people, but it's still relevant after all these years.
Well, I think we were smart and put it in turn 3, but kept it away from the racetrack so they can't look just to see what's going on there. So that was a good move.
Yeah.
What surprised me, I have to say quite honestly, was the air race. I thought, okay, you can't sit here, you can't sit there because the planes, and how can the planes fly inside the facility? I said, the place is bigger than you think.
Yeah.
I've had friends come and they said, we're going to go to Speedway. I want to come with you. And they walk in and they get inside. Holy Toledo, how big this! It went well, and it was a good crowd, and I suspect there'll be a bigger one this year.
Well, we hope so. I thought it was great. The fan feedback was terrific. It's another kind of extreme sport. Those planes are like an Indy car in terms of weight and size, and Except they pull a whole lot more G's when they go through those gates. It is unbelievable what those guys do. And we may not know all their names, but just to sit there and be out at the track and watch this extreme form of racing or sport has been really cool. This is year 2. We got a 3-year agreement, and hopefully we keep building it.
The thing that impressed me most, I went out and met some of the pilots and had one of them on the show, and he really impressed people. If they clip one of those poles, they can have that fixed in a matter of seconds. I mean, the air comes out, but they can, patch it and get it back up instantly. So they really you don't miss anything. And to get it up, off they go.
So for part of it, I was in the turn 2 suites, sitting with my wife and other ladies about her age and their husbands. And for the first time, they saw a plane come by and the wing clipped one of those inflatable pylons. And what happens, for those of you at home can't see this, but the pylon kind of goes limp. And then they go over and they push a button. It's got another inflatable inner tube basically in it. They push the button, it goes boing. So after this happened about twice, the girls were all laughing. Thinking, we know who could sponsor this event. Eli Lilly. Some about the turn 2 suites, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's the air over that area. That's what it is. It amazes me that the facility is being used, and I'm old school. I was here when they just ran one event, then they brought in 2, and I thought that's kind of dumb because it's not my favorite anyway. And then they had Formula One. In fact, we had Tony on one night, and we asked him, "Have you talked to Bernie recently?" He said, I haven't talked to him. I need to talk to him about that. We need to do something. And sure enough, he did, and then Formula One came. Not that we had anything to do with it, but just asked the question. But the facility is being used now for things I think is smart. That I read, or I can't remember if it was the major, Kirk, said that other race facilities have had this for a number of years, and Indianapolis outdrew them in their first shot by quite a bit, and that the people who provide that are going to expand it next year because it did so well.
One of the other first innovations there was the Pan American Games. I hope I'm not the only one in this room old enough to remember that.
No, I remember.
But we didn't have a good enough place really to do the opening ceremonies, so we asked Mary and Tony if it'd be okay if we brought in Disney and did the opening ceremonies of the Pan Am Games on the main straightaway. And they said absolutely, and didn't charge us to do it. So, in some ways there's always been a willingness to share with the community and to be a little bit innovative, and we come from people think of it as, the days when it was just the race, but it's been a long time since it's begun to open up.
It's good. I think it's a smart move. I mean, the tax people don't say, well, you're not doing anything, we won't charge you. I mean, everything continues to go on every day, so you might as well figure out a way to cover it. And I think, Allison you brought in is no dummy. She knows how to handle stuff like that. I think CJ is doing a great job. Your new salesman at the Speedway, Matt, has done an outstanding job from what I've seen. In fact, he's going to be here in a couple of weeks, so I'll quiz him on that. But again, I think you've got the ability to find the people that you need to do the job you need done. You don't have to do everything. You just
Thank you.
Take care of it. Make sure
I couldn't be more pleased. I call it both sides of the street, north and south. The team at IMS is off the charts. There is no better event management group in anything anywhere as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not saying that just because I work with them, but Allison has won 6 Emmys for producing every minute of gymnastics you've seen in the Olympics for the last, whatever that is, 6 Olympiads. And Mike Fox came in recently to run the facilities. That's a tough job, right? That's a vast, old place that needs a lot of care and love and resources. He ran the Hoosier Dome and Lucas Oil Stadium, so he was, after a whole career at the Capital Improvement Board, willing to take on a new challenge. And all his perspective and all his experience at other buildings and looking at other buildings around the country, they're not all tracks, but around that track is a whole lot of facilities. So that's just 2 examples of people whose who've got a career of great experience but are still eager and aggressive and smart and very hardworking.
Well, I think you don't hear much from the Hulman family anymore, so they must be happy, because they used to squawk for a while, but now you don't hear a peep out of them, so obviously things are going well. And what does Doug put in his coffee?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
You know, Doug fundamentally is two things. He's a racer. He loves motorsport, whether it's dirt track stuff or any form of sport, of motorsport, and he loves that place. So I think that's a bit of what wakes him up in the morning and keeps him going till late at night. How could you find a better promoter, a better ambassador for the event?
Do you talk to him frequently?
Doug?
Yeah.
Maybe 6 times a day, more.
Remind him we're still here. I'm still trying to get him. I think he's avoiding me.
Well, he may not know you banned smoking in here, apparently, because that might have had something to do with it. I'll talk to him.
And he said that that Pat McAfee invited him to do his bar stool or whatever it was. He offered him a beer. Would you do it? I texted him and said, how about if I offer you 2 beers? Will you come here? And I never heard back from him.
Well, as I left the office late, I left a meeting with Allison and Doug talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And they said, where are you going?
No, I said, I'm late. I got to go see Don. And
oh, boy.
I ran out.
I see. Well, I suppose I'm in trouble for that, too. I can't say enough about what the team, C.J. O'Donnell, I think is doing a good job. They're sending people out. I think the IMS radio network is the best it's ever been. Your PR people are second to none on both sides of the street, I think. You got some great people. I think the thing is really moving. And as I texted you, I forget which race it was, I said, if anybody didn't know that IndyCar was running today, they had their head in their sand or it was stuck somewhere else, because NBC promoted the thing. I started watching a little bit on Friday and Saturday. It was there. I mean, you had to know. So somebody has said something and said, you got to promote us if you want to get people to watch. And they have done it. And in fact, they were promoting Iowa Sunday, the upcoming event. So somebody said something to somebody. You want to raise the rates, here's how you do it. Get more eyeballs, the rates will go up.
That's the idea. The NBC folks are beginning to catch ESPN for the number of cable homes they're in. So their ability to reach people is gaining on the pack, and they're hungry. They're very good at promotion through NBC. If you think of the whole platform, whether it's late night stuff or Today's Show, that they've got a lot of ways to tell a story and to promote something. That nobody does anything better in that along those lines than they do with the Olympics. So we know they know how to do it, and the more often we can be top of mind for them, the more they can get people to tune in.
My only concern is they must have lowered the rate for commercials, because, boy, they sure run a lot of them. And I tend to doze off.
But the split screen works pretty well.
It's not bad. I've heard people, I can't see that. Well, get closer. I can see it. I can see what's going on, and I'm old. So I think, things are looking right. When Robbie was here, he said, we're already talking to them about changes we think need to be made to help build it. So we're in conversation, and they're listening, and he said, call me back in the fall. I maybe have something more to tell you, so of course I will.
Well, he was a big part of the impetus for introducing the visor cam, which it's not a life-changing thing, but a really cool innovation. I think that lower, broader vantage point really gets you in the seat even more than the in-car cameras did before, or even GoPros. So it's just an example of continually being restless about finding ways to make the tuning in more exciting.
It's amazing when you think about when I started, when television started. Television cameras took 4 men and a dog to move. Now they've got little tiny things they put on your head. Doesn't even affect the airflow. Amazing what can happen.
I don't think we had TV when you started, Don.
Oh, that you did. You're right.
I remember when it was black and white too. So
we had the first television in our area, and after school I was the biggest hero in town, because come on over, we'll watch Howdy Doody. Oh boy, I shouldn't have said that. Not that Howdy Doody. There was one.
Hey, howdy.
He's in the Hall of Fame. He tells everybody, so I figure I might as well save him the trouble. And Eldon's across the table. He's in the Hall of Fame, too. 2 Hall of Famers. Well, I tell you what, I'm sorry you had to leave a meeting. Though not really. I appreciate your time.
I'm okay with it.
I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming in. And I think to you and all your staff, you're doing a hell of a job.
Well, thanks for doing this, for having so many of us out so often, and the constructive, positive things you've said. And I hope I didn't scare you being a little bit late.
Not at all. I was going to start talking about heaven knows what. I'd have found something to talk about. But thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
It. Mark Miles, the CEO of Hulman and Company and Hulman Racing. My next guest is here, and he's on his way up. In the meantime, I will remind you that tonight's program is being presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the Verizon IndyCar Series. If you're looking for a car and you need a Chevrolet and you want to find the best price in town, go to the country, because Sam Pierce is in the country, and the best prices are at Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. Just take I-69 north to exit 35, go south 1 mile, and you'll see them. You won't miss them. You interested in a ride in a 2-seater? Find out why these guys and gals love riding these cars and driving these cars? Do what I did. Call 317-243-7171. Ask for Shonda. Or go online at indyracingexperience.com, and when you find a date you can make, in the promo box put SJ1, you get a 50% discount. It's a great ride. You'll have fun, and nobody has ever fallen out of a car yet. A wing fell off, but nobody fell out of the car. It's a great experience. Do you like the old cars, the cars that you knew when you were kids? You need to get a subscription to Vintage Racing Quarterly. Go to svra.com and subscribe. It's a great magazine, great stories. And strangely enough, you'll see some of the cars that you used to see when you first started coming. They're out running again. And as far as the vintage SVRA is concerned, they'll be in Portland International Raceway for the 2017 Portland Vintage Racing Festival, July 27th to the 30th. If you're up in the Northwest, do yourself a favor. Go see it. If you were here for the Brickyard Invitational, you know how great it was. You want to get up there and take a look. And if you have a kid who's 9 years old and would like to give them a surprise and put them in a car, you can get the victory lap for if you're 9 years old and older. Just call 317-243-7171, extension 101, and book it. Mention my name, and the picture you get when the ride is over is free. And if you're going to have a party for any reason, maybe you're coming in for the Brickyard, you want to have company get together, Tony Meyer can help you. She's a professional. She's been doing it for over 25 years. She can help you book a party. Give her a call. The number is 317-515-7929. If you like karting, why not try the Speedway Indoor Karting Center? Check their website, www.sikarting.com. See what's going on. You'll love it. And if it's time for insurance for your home, your car, or if you have a commercial property, do what I did, call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. He's located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. The number is 317-248-0070. Now, my next guest is a gentleman who was here about, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, and everybody was pretty well impressed. He started out the season by winning both ends of the St. Petersburg race, and he just won the second race at Road America by 1799 seconds over his arch rival Victor Franzoni. He is second in points at the current time. He's just 7 points behind and catching. He's a great guy. He's from Australia, and he's a certified mechanic or worker on drilling equipment. So if you happen to have a drill and a big piece of to dig a hole in the ground, he can help you fix it. Please welcome Mr. Anthony Martin. Are you still living in Bloomington?
Yeah. I'm still down there.
You still got your girlfriend down there, I assume?
Yeah. I'm still down there. How are you, Don, by the way?
I'm fine.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
What have you been doing for the last 6-8 weeks when you haven't raced?
Oh, fluffing about, testing.
Flopping about?
Fluffing about.
Oh, fluffing about.
Yeah. I've been pretty busy, actually. more than you think. So there's a lot of testing and stuff that
Oh,
goes
really?
on, and of course the month of May up here is always crazy, which is good. So that kept me really busy.
You are the 2016 USF 2000 champion. For winning that, the scholarship you got, did that afford you the opportunity to run the full season in Pro Mazda?
Yeah, correct. So it basically it did cover pretty much most of the season in Pro Mazda. So yeah, we're very fortunate that the Mazda scholarship was able to do that for us. And you know, of course, my sponsors are still on the car and they're still helping out for the the other little bits and pieces throughout the season. But yeah, I mean that definitely covered most of it.
Now, when the race was over, the second race was over on Sunday. You and Victor good friends?
We're rivals.
That's for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah. I mean, we're rivals, and we definitely had a very fierce battle in that second race. We haven't spoken.
Really?
But I mean, we've always had some great battles in the last few years, and I mean, it always becomes very tough when there's a lot of money on the line. So things happen. Thankfully, nothing happened in this race, but I mean, it was extremely close, but we were still able to finish and come out with straight cars, which is always handy.
Yeah, I'm sure the car owner's happy too.
Yeah.
How did you hook up with Cape Racing?
So basically, my first year in 2015, I won the rookie championship in USF 2000, and so I think that got the attention of the Cape Motorsport guys, and they came knocking on my door, and basically they wanted to get me in the car to see how I would perform in the car. And one thing led to another. I did a test in the car, and they were quite happy, and they obviously wanted me to do the season last year in 2016. So we were able to get all the sponsors back on board, and we were able to do the season last year and have a successful one.
And you won the scholarship, so it doesn't hurt them any to say, well, let's go on to the next step.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're not going to say no for a free ride the next year. So, yeah, I mean, we got the Mazda scholarship, and here I am again this year racing in Pro Mazda.
Now, I was watching the race, and I heard them, I don't know if they played it or not, but I heard them say, Victor's on the radio complaining that Anthony's blocking me. Well, I watched the race. I didn't see you block him. You did what you could do. You can... you can take your line, but you can't move, and you did, and it essentially stopped him. But that's part of the rules. You can do that.
Yeah. I mean, I was defending very hard, and that's the word these days, defending. But as long as you make your one move and you stay in that position, then it's all okay. So I was really making sure that I wasn't doing any form of blocking and moving around too much or putting him off the road. So I think I was relatively clean there, and of course it's always on the limit, and I made it very difficult for him to get past, and I think he was just getting a little bit frustrated. But I mean, it was extremely hard. I mean, if I was in his boat, I probably would have said the same thing, because I mean, that's just one of those things. If you're faster than the guy in front and you can't get past, then you're always going to be a bit frustrated on that part, and I would be the same. So it's understandable.
I don't know that it didn't appear to me that he was faster than you particularly. He just didn't have the opportunity, and it seemed to me his idea was stay close, you'll make a mistake and I'll get you, but you didn't make one.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you're out front and you've got someone right behind you, especially at a place like Road America, you've got them long straights where the guy can slipstream up to the back of you, and I think that's why I couldn't shake him off my tail there. The long straights basically kept him there, and he was able to keep the pressure on me. But yeah, as you said, not making a mistake is very important there. As soon as you make a mistake, guys like Victor, he can pounce on that and really get past you. So I was just really focusing on, hitting all my points, my apexes, getting on the throttle at the right time, and getting the maximum speed down the straights.
Now your next event is Mid-Ohio, and you race 3 times there.
Yeah.
That'll make you want to stay home on Monday and sleep in a little, probably.
Yeah, I mean, 3 races. It's a full-on weekend. I love that track. But there's a lot of points on to offer there. You have 3 races instead of 2 or 1 race. So, if you can qualify really well in all 3 races, then generally you can come out with, providing nothing bad happens, normally you can come out with some pretty solid points. So it is a harder place to pass, and it's probably one of the harder ones on the calendar. So if you can qualify well, then hopefully you can keep the guy behind you.
I think the worst you finished this year is 4th, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I finished 4th in Indy. We really struggled at Indy in May. We just really were struggling with the car, and we actually found a few problems with the car after that race. But we bounced back at Road America and were able to challenge him a bit more.
When you go home, which I assume you do at the end of the season because you went through all the trouble to be certified to work on well drilling equipment, do you get a lot of media coverage? Are people aware of what you're doing and where you are and where you're racing and all that kind of thing?
In Australia, I've got quite a big fan base back home. They all know what I do over here, and they all understand what I'm doing. But then, I go back into working on normal machinery back there, and it's just an everyday job for me. And it's pretty cool because it takes my mind off the racing. It's pretty full on, so it's always good to get your head off the racing side and focus on something else. So I love it, and I'm really thankful that I was able to get my trade certificate early this year, which is pretty cool. So but yeah, there's a massive fan base back home. All the guys really support me, and obviously for an Australian to come over and really sort of put everything behind him and try live another life. Basically you have 2 lives right now, one back in Australia and one over here, so it's extremely difficult, but I've got a lot of support behind me pushing me to do what I love, and I can't be thankful enough of the people that are really supporting me to do what I love.
Your mom and dad come and see any of the races, or they watch you on television?
Well, they do both. They did come over for Indianapolis, so that was really cool to have them here, and they came here last year to watch as well, and I was able to get on the podium or finish first as well at Indy last year. So they love the place, and they want to come here every year, and I was able to talk them into coming to stay for a bit longer for the 500, which was cool. So they sort of missed the 100th anniversary last year, and I think they sort of regretted that. So they were a bit jealous, and they finally did the actual Indy 500. So they absolutely had a ball there, and it was pretty impressive.
Are you working on any equipment here?
No, not at the moment. I'd like to. It'd be cool to get into something, but just working on a few things so that I can do that.
You are qualified to work on hydraulics, right?
Yes, correct.
Well, there's all kinds of hydraulic equipment. They could certainly use somebody to repair it, because I see them springing leaks every so often.
Yeah, that's hydraulics for you. They're pretty prone to leaking, no matter where you go. So, I love hydraulics. It's pretty cool how everything works in a hydraulic system, and that's what I really love to work on, is the hydraulics on anything.
I suppose it makes me look stupid, but I didn't realize that drilling was big in Australia. I didn't realize that. What do they drill for?
It's massive. There's water well drilling. So basically, if you just want to bore in to get water out of the ground, there's normal water well drilling. But there's a lot of exploration, so looking for gold. There's a lot of iron ore stuff, diamonds. There's a lot of stuff, but where we are, there's a lot of gold mining. So there's a lot of things to do with drilling, and especially with the gold price now, I think it's definitely taken off down there.
Gold.
Yeah.
Does your dad work on equipment that mines for gold?
He used to. He got out of that because it's kind of a money pit. Like, it's a bit like a race car, pretty much. You put money into it, and it doesn't really go any faster. But we're still in the mining industry, and we provide equipment to companies that drill for gold. So basically, high pressure air is what we specialize in, and you need high pressure air to get the dirt out of the ground. It's all well, drilling a hole, but you have to get the dirt out of the ground, and that's what high pressure air comes into it. So, that's what we specialize in.
How did your girlfriend like racing?
Well, she wasn't really into it at first, but as soon as she met me, she definitely loves it. She hates it when I'm racing, though, of course. But she pretty much has a heart attack like my mum, but they're sort of on the same page there. So but I mean, she's really supportive, and it's pretty cool.
What's your goal? What has been your goal since you started racing? Was your goal to run Formula One, or did you want to come to America and run the 500 and be involved in Indy cars?
I always looked up to Formula One. Being involved in Formula One, I wasn't really sure of it, but I always idolised it and what they did there. I was mainly looking at getting into V8 supercars in Australia. I'm not sure if any of you guys are aware of that, but it's the biggest series there, and it's pretty cool what they do there. So I was always looking up to V8 supercars, and I wanted to get into that, and I never really gave it a thought of coming overseas and racing. And then 2014 was a bit of a dull year for me. The mining was very, very quiet then, and so we were struggling for money. So I was focusing on doing some Formula Ford stuff, and the race team that I raced with before were really looking after me, and I was testing a prototype car that he had just built. So it was sort of working both ways. You know, he was helping me out a lot with getting me on the track and keeping me going around, and I was helping him develop the car a little bit. So it was a very quiet year, but you know, we developed the car a lot and gained a bit of attention from a well-known fella, Mark Larkham in Australia. He basically got in contact with myself and my dad, and he suggested that we would come over to America and test in USF 2000 in December 2014, and we did that, and that obviously went really well. And then from then I've been looking at IndyCar. You know, I've always watched IndyCar, and it's been really cool, but I've never really known the differences between the cars, you know, until, you know, recently, where I've been able to really see the competitiveness in IndyCar compared to Formula One. Obviously IndyCar, it's a spec series, so it's definitely more entertaining. We won't go too much into that, but definitely IndyCar is, you know, what I'm aiming for now, and I really aspire to be in that class one day.
I think that, you know, Lewis Hamilton, great. Sebastian Vettel, great drivers, but they run the same things all the time. Where if you run IndyCar, you got to run street and road courses, big ovals, short ovals. You got to really be diversified and good at everything to be a champion. And it looks to me like you're on your way. You've figured out. How many ovals had you run before you came here?
Before I came to America, absolutely none. So 2015 was my first time on an oval, and I was just like any other person that drove around the oval for the first time, thinking, oh yeah, you're just turning left. But no, it's a lot harder than you think, and opened up my eyes, and it really impressed me, and it's really one of my favorite tracks, because even though you're just going around in circles, it's very technical. Mentally, it's very draining. Probably the hardest on your mind of all the racetracks. Simply because you're thinking about the car a lot more, so it's very hard on your head, and so for that, I mean, I really love the ovals.
Did USF 2000 teach you enough so when you moved up to Pro Mazda, you had an understanding of what you were doing? Obviously a little more horsepower, a little faster, but it built you to get to where Pro Mazda you're comfortable, and now you're ready to go to lights? Yeah,
I mean, USF 2000 and Pro Mazda, there's obviously a little bit difference in the car, and you have to drive it a little bit different technically. But for sure, I mean, it definitely, USF 2000 taught me the ropes of driving a car fast, and obviously the different techniques between a street circuit, a permanent course, and an oval. So it's a really good class to learn, you know, the basics in, and I mean, it taught me a lot in my first year. It really opened up my eyes as to what is involved in motorsport and how to get the most out of the car. So and that's paying dividends this year to really maximize everything out of it.
Have you tested an Indy Lights car yet?
No, not yet. We're on the talks with a couple teams, for the 2018 season. But they're very excited to get me in the car, and I'm also very excited to get in the car. But obviously, they're pretty busy at the moment, so we're just basically waiting till everything sort of calms down, and then hopefully I'll be able to get in a car.
There's about 3 or 3.5 weeks in July, end of July and into August, that there's probably time you could get some seat time.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely talking. I probably can't say too much, but I mean, yeah, we're definitely talking, and we're looking forward to getting into one.
The fans for the series that you're doing, the fans, if you're going to Formula One, the fans could almost never meet a driver. They can never see him. They can never talk to him. Whereas here, it's pretty much open where the fans can see you. Are they recognizing you now? Are you getting recognized when you're at the track?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what I love about America, is that it's really about the spectators and about the fans, and that's what I love. Whereas Europe is sort of more about the professionalism and, racing cars. Over here, it's a whole package. You have to be presentable as a driver. You have to obviously drive a car very fast, but it's the whole package, and you have to be able to speak to fans. And over here, being recognised and, people coming up, and the best thing is when, little kids look up to you and, go, can you sign my hat or sign my shirt? And, you're putting a smile on their face and making their day. And that's what I love, is when you're able to influence, a kid's life and really, make their day, just by a simple gesture of signing their shirt or hat.
Plus, you've just built a fan.
Yeah, that's it. One more fan to the book.
The only thing that disturbs me is a little bit is the time they race. You get people in the stands and on the road course and on the hills watching, which I noticed this weekend was there. But I was watching online, and the coverage was pretty decent, particularly for the Pro Mazda. The USF 2000, they had cameras. I think somebody just pushed a button and turned it on when cars were coming through there. But they followed pretty good, and they showed the race pretty well. And I thought the commentators commented very well on your driving skill and your ability and the way you handled. I mean, Victor was there, but he couldn't get around you. And they commented, and they noticed, this guy can handle a car. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give it to, the Mazda Road to Indy. They've really only started the television for the last 2 years, so that it's all a big learning process for them, and they're really learning off IndyCar and getting involved with them to sort of utilize their technology to basically get us out there a little bit more. So kudos to them to, getting, they help out my parents. They're on the other side of the world watching my races. So it definitely prevents my mum from having a heart attack or whatever just by watching live timing. So that's always handy. But, we've definitely got a great crew. The commentators, we got Michael Young and Rob Howden that call the races, so that's really cool to have them on board. Very professional guys, and they have definitely very experienced, and they've seen a lot of racing, so they know what they're talking about. And it's great to have very experienced people a part of the Mazda Road to Indy.
I was a little upset. I don't know who the two guys were in the booth, but it seemed to me there was only one guy in the race, and that was Victor. They said, well, he's starting last, and that's all they talked about. Every once in a while they say, yeah, Anthony's leading the race, but here comes Victor. Oh, yeah, so? But he got there, and that's as far as he could go. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because they said, boy, apparently Anthony knows how to drive a car, and he drove clean. You gave him room where he didn't want to go, or he couldn't have made it anyway. But that's showbiz.
Yeah, I haven't heard the commentary, but of course when Victor, he started last, and he had a crazy opening few laps, I'm pretty sure, because coming from last to basically third in a short amount of time would have been pretty cool to watch. So that definitely would have gotten their attention. So instead of me just cruising around out front, but it was definitely a crazy race, and I left him room in the spots where he wasn't really able to make a passing move. So and that's what the whole sort of plan was to make him go in the spots where he doesn't want to go.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Good move. 3 races upcoming at Mid-Ohio. Where do you end the season?
We end it at Watkins Glen.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you having fun? Is living in America, I mean, is it a big deal that different kind of food because you don't eat, I don't know what they have over there. I don't want to say anything. I might say the wrong thing.
Yeah, I mean, your serving sizes over here are definitely something you have to get used to, and try not to eat all the food that they give you. But I mean, over here, definitely, I've definitely gotten into sort of cooking my own meals to try keep it as healthy as I can. But yeah, I mean, I really do love it over here. The people, you guys are really awesome to hang around, and it really does remind me of home. So, thank you to everyone for being so supportive and also inviting. You got a foreign person coming into your country, and it's pretty cool to have it inviting. I know what it's like back home when other people come into our country and what other people think of it. So yeah, it's definitely really cool, how inviting and supportive you guys are, and for that I can't thank you guys enough. So,
well, let's see. I figure 2 wins at Mid Ohio out of 3 races ought to put you in the lead.
Yeah. So, well, basically, if I was to, let's say, win it and take out the fastest lap and also pole it, and he was to come second, then that would put us on a tie. So there's a 7-point or 8-point difference between first and second when you clean sweep a race. So it can definitely change really quickly. And Mid-Ohio is, as I said before, very, very important. So we'll see what will happen.
I'll be on. If you haven't watched, you can watch online. The practice and qualifying is there. Go to racecontrol.indycar.com, or I've discovered, genius that I am, that if you go to IndyCar on Facebook and click it, it'll pop up. I didn't know it was there. Now I know, and I watched it there, and it was good. So there's no reason you can't watch. If somebody doesn't want you to do it at work, just put it on your phone and hide it. But it's there, and the broadcast team is excellent, and it's fun to watch. You guys have a good series. You got good cars and some good drivers in that thing. So if you win a race or you get on the podium, you've had some people to contend with to get there.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. I mean, you got to look at it. There's a lot of money on to offer, and that attracts a lot of drivers from around the world. Well, I mean, it attracted me from the other side of the world, so it definitely attracts a lot of other drivers. So it's really crazy. I mean, Pro Mazda, there's I think it's just over $700,000 for the championship this year. The rookie of the year as well also gets a Mazda car. So the amount of money that Mazda and Team Cooper Tire are throwing out there is impressive. And yeah, if you can take out a championship, there's a lot of talented drivers in the series, and that goes for USF 2000, Pro Mazda, and Indy Lights. The competition there is unbelievable, and it's really hard to finish ahead of them.
Well, you did it. The second race this weekend. Good luck in the upcoming event. 3 races at Mid-Ohio. I appreciate you taking the time to come all the way from Bloomington. How long does it take you to get up here?
Oh, depending how I drive. If I'm good, it's an hour, but yeah.
Okay. Well, Mr. Miles said that on his way here he had police following him, so I hope you don't have police following you back.
Nah, that won't happen.
Well, good luck to you. Thanks for taking the time to come here, and who knows, we'll probably by the end of the season we'll call you again.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here to talk in front of all you guys, and yeah, I suppose I should say hi to Mum and Dad back home. They've probably just woken up out of bed, so how you going, guys?
What time is it there?
Well, it's about 8 o'clock now, so it'd be 8 o'clock in the morning there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah,
Dad.
there you go.
Well, Mark said people at home can't see what I'm doing. Well, this is streamed live on YouTube, but we got a boatload of watchers, so
yeah,
they'll see it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And there's also a lot of people from Perth, Australia, that are also watching. So we got it out there that I was coming on tonight, so I could sort of talk to them. But yeah, no, it's cool to be up here.
Well, thanks for stopping by. Good luck to you the rest of the year, and we'll talk to you again before you leave to go home.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, hit me up. I'll be back here in a jiffy.
Watch for him, the Pro Mazda. He's second in points, but he ain't going to stay there, I don't think. Anthony Martin.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Want to remind you, if you haven't been yet to the museum to see the A.J. Foyt exhibit, you need to go. It is a spectacular exhibit. These young ladies sitting over here in this booth will guide you. Scarlett, a.k.a. Phyllis, if you're taking a tour in the bus, she'll be the one telling you, or can be the one telling you what's going on. But you got to see the Foyt exhibition. It's fantastic. You'll love it. Go and see it. Go see the gals. Tell them, oh, yeah, Don told me I should be here, so here I am. And they'll take care of you. Next week, it's the 4th of July. Everybody will be celebrating somewhere, but it won't be here because we're going to take next Tuesday, the 4th of July, off. We'll be back on July the 11th. I haven't had any guests lined up yet, but I will. If you haven't heard, just go to autosportradio.com, and there's a tab you click on that tells you the guests, and you'll see who they are when I post them. Till the July 11th, everybody have a great 4th of July. Be safe. Hopefully you'll come back. See you next time. Thanks. Good night.